Hello and welcome back to Pratfall. I'm here with beautiful Benjamin. Hi, Ben.
Hello there, you're right.
I'm all right, and it's exciting, Ben, isn't it? Because we've got a whole new roadmap for the whole of 2025.
Incredibly exciting. We love a roadmap.
There's all sorts of little bits on here, juicy tidbits, things that we knew were coming, things that we had no idea were coming. So, shall we dive right in?
Yes, indeed. So, to begin with, we have at the top the ongoing improvements for the year. So we've got performance, skill tree, combat, world, building, and lighting. So obviously these are going to be things that come with every single update in whatever form that may take. So I think things like this in last year's roadmap were included in the actual roadmap. And then we also have all of the building improvements in the roadmap have actually been checked off now because we got them with the most recent update. And there's a few others too, so I'm going to quickly just read off those. So we've got the wall decay tool, first person building camera, free prop rotation, display food, drinks and potions, more building blocks and props, wall overgrowth tool, voice chat, text chat, and player emotes. Interesting that they included these on the roadmap. My only thought would be potentially they created it a little while ago and didn't know when they were going to drop the update, maybe?
Yeah, I think my guess would be obviously as much as this update was almost like a tail end 2024 update, it obviously happened in 2025. So I guess they just want to be thorough and include all the things that are going to be released or have been released in 2025, regardless of whether they've got them out yet already.
Exactly, yeah. But interesting that we've already cleared off, I guess, like a quarter of the roadmap.
Absolutely. They've come into 2025 swinging with a load of useful quality of life things.
But now it's time for the meat and potatoes. So first of all, we have new weather events. Now, this is something that we kind of touched on briefly last time when we were kind of recapping the 2024 one. We talked about, potentially like sandstorms and things like that for the Kindle waste. So have any other ideas of what they could add?
It's tough to say, isn't it? Because, I mean, already we have a decent sort of range of weather things. I'd like to see like really big in-depth thunderstorms that maybe thunder can strike the ground and stuff like that. I think that'd be really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I always bring it back to Zelda, but in like Breath of the Wild and stuff, if there's a thunderstorm going on and you have like some kind of metal or steel weapon equipped, it will strike you, or it's more likely to strike you if you have something like that equipped. So that could be a cool feature they could add.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you could also use that. I think you'll be surprised here, Ben, because I actually have played a part of Zelda that includes that feature a long while ago, and they could take a similar thing from that in that I think there's a section where you need the thunder to strike you in a certain zone to open something. Is that right?
Yes, I think you are right. Yeah.
So you could use that to do all sorts of things. If you stand by this big metal spire and let the thunder strike it, it could open a secret tomb or something. Loads of fun little things you could do with that.
Yeah, or potentially even we always go down these rabbit holes, man. I love that. If you had, because we have like different elemental weapons, right? Say you had like a lightning infused weapon. What if lightning could strike it and just like empower the weapon?
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot they could do with it. I'd quite like to see them expand on the like blizzards that we get in game. I'd like them to be a bit more perilous, for lack of a better term. Like, for example, adding like, like thick fog around when there's a big heavy snowstorm coming down. What's the word? If it kind of like buffets you. Buffet, I think that's the word. Buffeted by the snowstorm.
I have never heard that in my entire life.
I think I got that from Pokemon, I think you got buffeted by the sandstorms in Pokemon.
Okay, interesting.
But anyway, yeah, sandstorms, thunderstorms, big-ass snowstorms.
Yeah, and just, not improving as such, but like you say, making more severe the weather conditions that already exist in the game. Base
raid islands.
Yeah, now this one's an intriguing one because people have been asking for base raids since, the game entered early access. And sort of the last we'd heard of this as a feature is that with the nature of the game and the ability to build bases, for example, in the sky and stuff like that, King Games were basically saying, it's something we're looking into, but based on the nature of the game, it's a tough thing to do because you could easily cheese it. You could wall off your whole base so they can't get in. Would people want their bases to be destroyed by base raids? But the word islands is obviously the most intriguing thing, isn't it?
I mean, that could refer to the Sky Islands potentially, or it could be a whole new thing that we have no clue about yet. But whatever it is referring to, it sounds like it could be a way to kind of please everyone.
Yeah, it's my best guess is that there's some kind of area in the game world, or perhaps outside the game world as well, where you can build one of your bases, and there is a chance that that specific area can be attacked. And I would imagine that whatever area of the map the base raid potential is on, they will craft that area of the map so that you can't cheese it.
Agreed. I think that's going to be really cool though, because I think it means that people who play it Enshrouded for a more cozy experience don't have to muck about with all that if they don't want to. But people who play, you know, the more like hardcore style of the game will have that option now. And I don't think I've seen anything like that in a survival game before. You know, think about games like Valheim and Grounded, for example, that have these base raid mechanics. There's no getting away from them, you know, that is just a big part of the game.
Like you say, it's very rare for a game or a games developer to try and please everyone in the way that Keen Games do. And I think it sort of speaks volumes to what games tend to be more successful. You hear a lot in the gaming industry about player choice and how the more choices the player has in terms of the way they want to play, what mechanics they do or don't want to engage with. You always hear about those sorts of games doing better and being more popular because you can play it in any way that you want to play it. So certainly having that attitude towards these sorts of mechanics, I think is gonna be really good for the year going forward.
I think they're already doing this, but especially looking at this by the end of 2025, I think they'll have a really diverse player base, which is something that you can't say about a lot of games. Even going back to Valheim, for example, fantastic game, but it's not for the cozy gamer.
Yeah, sure.
New moving traps. Now, I would imagine this is referring to the things that you get like in the ancient spires and the hollow halls, right? The big meatballs, the fireballs that roll along, the lightning that comes out, the spike traps. I imagine that's what it is referring to.
That would be my best guess as well. I think the only thing I'd really add to that is, so there obviously, we have sort of a legend at the top that shows what the icons refer to. The new moving traps is in the gameplay features section, not in the building improvements section. But I would still argue that potentially they are moving towards the ability to create traps within your own flame altar radius, potentially sort of hinting at the ability to create your own dungeons going forward one day. I'm not necessarily saying that will come soon, or necessarily saying it'll come at all, but that's certainly a potential thing where they're sort of winking at us and saying at some point we're going to start implementing things that allow you to build your own challenges, your own dungeons.
Do you have any ideas of what traps they could add?
I mean, in terms of stuff we don't already have in the game, I can't really think of a lot, to be honest. I mean, we obviously have, in the open world, we have like spike traps that you can fall into. We have the meatballs, we have the spikes coming up from the ground. I'd imagine there's all sorts of stuff they could do with it. Even you walk over a pressure plate and the floor opens up and you fall into Red Shroud or something potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I'm not too sure.
Maybe like an Indiana Jones style boulder rolling down a hill.
Oh my god, that would be good.
You know, a specific kind of dungeon, you hit a pressure plate and this boulder just comes out.
And you've got to run.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I could see that. That'd be cool. Improved Shroud. Now, we could include this in the things that have been crossed off already because they have added improvements to the Shroud with this last update in terms of like the visuals and things like that. But it is possible they have more plans with it, which is why we haven't included it there.
Yeah. My honest guess with this, it obviously says visuals, locations, and rewards. So visuals, like you say, that's just something that they will continually improve as the life of the game goes on. In terms of locations, my best guess is they want to diversify, for lack of a better term, the areas of the Shroud. So when you're in the Shroud, most areas, you know what you're going to be seeing visually in terms of landscape, the sort of materials, the sorts of things like that you find. But my guess is that they want more points of interest in terms of the landscaping and stuff, more areas that feel unique to each other within the Shroud.
Yeah, that could be cool. I'd be interested to see what rewards they're planning on adding to.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign. That's another thing that people have asked for, is improving rewards generally in the game. For a while, there was a little issue of, you'll do a big dungeon or a cave or something like that, only to find a weapon that's underleveled compared to the stuff that you've currently got. Rewards could mean anything from gear to different block types to, there's all sorts of stuff that it could be. But the fact that they're looking at that is definitely a good sign.
Yeah, it's really good, because I think you get to a point relatively early on within the game where, like, you venture into the Shroud, you grab all, Shroud cores and Shroud wood and whatever else there is, but you don't really find, like, higher level things as you progress through the game. Like, pretty much everything you need from the Shroud you can find, like, in the first section. So yeah, hopefully there's, like, a ramp up in, like, progression style rewards and stuff like that.
Yeah, new materials in the higher level areas of the Shroud to get new terrain materials and stuff like that would be really nice.
Improved night, more dangerous, and new rewards.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, Ben, but certainly the nighttime doesn't feel particularly more dangerous than the daytime, other than the fact that you have more fell enemies spawning around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be very intrigued to learn what they mean by this, whether this means nighttime specific enemies, perhaps. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah,
perhaps like large werewolves or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That could be a very interesting thing. And then that could also link back in with the new weather events and stuff, like a full moon. You have a chance of getting a full moon every now and again, potentially.
That would be cool.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know what they could add to make it more dangerous, other than adding like a full-on cold system throughout the entire world, which would feel weird considering they have that in the Albanese summits.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I do like having these more ambiguous kind of points, because we can speculate on this for months to come, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, for me at the moment, when I'm in the game, the only reason that I sleep is because I can't see what I'm doing at night.
Yes.
It's not because it's more dangerous. It's not because I'm scared to leave my base. It's because I can't see where I'm going. That's the only reason. But yeah, having that extra sense of danger would really add to the game, I think.
And potentially, I suppose, if there are new enemy types that are night specific, you'd have more of a reason not to skip the night, more of a reason to go out at night looking for specific materials that, or specific armor pieces that specific enemies drop.
New weapon types. Now, two come to mind for me right off the bat, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well. And those would be spears and greatswords. People have been asking for those for what feels like since the game launched at this point. And certainly the greatswords, we've talked about this before. I can't imagine it would be too difficult to add them unless they were really set on adding their own unique animations for them. But you could just give them very similar animations to the like battle axes and things like that.
Yeah, great swords, like ridiculously oversized swords that you see in a lot of fantasy worlds. I'd quite like to see a quarterstaff. I think we've talked about this before. Just something like some kind of two-ended weapon, whether that's just like a long wooden pole that you're sort of hitting an enemy with one side then the other. You could have some really cool animations with that. There's endless sorts of weapons they could add. Crossbows could be a potential one as well to add more stuff in the skill tree for those archers and ranger types.
Yeah, more ranged weapons would definitely be good. I think we've talked before about like throwing axes or throwing knives and things like that too. Just more ranged options for melee characters specifically. And just going back to the quarterstaff too. So they added obviously daggers to the game, and I think they are dexterity based, similar to the bows. And I feel like I feel like the quarterstaff could also be dexterity based, because it's all about like agility and stuff like that.
Quick.
But yeah, I'm imagining the animations they could do with that. In my head, it looks awesome, but I could also imagine how it might be quite difficult for them to, or not difficult, but time consuming for them to implement.
Yeah, but, I think it would be worth it because it would add so much more varied dynamicness, for lack of a better term, to the combat. Anything that makes different weapon types feel unique, that adds a real flow to the combat, I think is definitely going to be a good improvement. But to be honest, any new weapon types, anything that adds something new to the combat system, I think will make a huge difference to the game.
And I guess under that you could also include new magic damage types.
Yeah, sure.
We've kind of touched on that before. I think we talked about like void damage or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Things that have, a unique mechanic to them and also a unique visual to them. Like you say, we've talked about void magic in the past, having this big sort of dark purple look to it, the ability to make like a portal to the void that sucks enemies in or something like that. Potentially something that throws enemies in the air. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff you could do with that.
Yeah, I would love to see more environmental damage in that way. Like potentially if it was like think of like a Fusro Dar. So you push an enemy back and they hit a wall and it's like collision damage or something.
Yeah, sure.
Or even fall damage, like you say, if you just kind of throw them into the air and then they fall and take damage from the fall. I think stuff like that would be really fun and just add a lot of variety to the combat.
Yeah, it gives you more options.
Event system. Now this seems to be replacing the world event that was on the last roadmap. Now obviously they didn't quite tick off everything that they wanted to from the last roadmap, which is totally fair enough. They've been very consistent with the updates. They've been giving us all kinds of content and adding things as they've gone along, right, that people have requested. So I think it's understandable that they didn't quite get to everything. But yeah, I assume event system is basically the same as that.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. So, we've talked many times about the ways in which they could do world events. Going to a certain place, praying to a god at some kind of altar, and some big beast comes down that you've got to fight. Things like that. So it's good to know that they've moved that over and they still intend to do that. But yeah, that's, again, I think I mentioned in our last video about the previous roadmap. This is certainly one of the things I'm most excited for.
I'm really excited about this next one, man.
It's very intriguing, isn't it?
Weapon gems customization. I don't want to claim any kind of credit for this, okay? However, we had a relatively lengthy discussion, I believe, in our first roadmap video, I want to say, about this specific thing and being able to customize your weapons with these gems or, things on the pommel, right? Different colored gems that potentially give you different like elemental capabilities with your weapons. And it feels like a really niche thing, and I don't think I've ever seen it in a game before. Like I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure it does exist in different games and I just haven't seen it. But yeah, I think we deserve a small amount of credit. Just in case. You never know. They could have watched the video and gone, do you know what, guys? That's a really good idea.
It's certainly possible, yeah. But no, it's a really intriguing one because, like you say, there's sort of two sides to it. Side A is the fact that that's a very specific thing to be able to customize visually, right? It allows you to really make your weapons, whether it's a staff, whether it's a sword, whether it's a bow, anything. It allows you to make your character look so specific to you. And with these games, any improved customization is always welcome to people. And then, like you say, there's the flip side of that, which is, could these have some kind of mechanical ability? Do they give you some kind of buff? Do they give you a weapon affinity towards, it could boost your fire damage or your ice damage, etc. Some could boost your health. So you could have such a vastly complex and intricate system by using these gems to buff certain aspects of your build.
Yeah, so the last thing I will mention on that point is that these are under gameplay features and not vanity. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would imagine that does suggest that you are right in thinking that, and potentially there won't even be a vanity aspect to it. Like maybe the appearance won't change. I personally would be a bit disappointed if you don't actually see, the gem that's added to your weapon, but I guess the issue with that is you would have to change every individual, like the visual on every individual weapon.
Yes.
And that could be quite tricky. I'm going to remain hopeful because I want a little yellow gem in my sword. But yeah, definitely gameplay wise, it looks like we could add like maybe different kinds of elemental damage and things like that.
Yeah, that's going to be so good.
A jukebox? Okay.
Okay.
Why not, man? That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that certainly in our community streams and stuff like that, people love using the musical instruments. So anything that adds to that sort of sense of community, and everyone's in the tavern, you've got the jukebox going, you're all drinking some delicious frizzy goat milk. Anything that adds to that sort of community vibe where you can all hang out in the same area listening to a bit of music. Those little details I love in this game.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that's going to work in terms of is it just going to be a case of you can choose from the songs that you can play with your instruments? And if so, if you start playing an instrument over it, will you play along with it, or will you end up playing a different song that kind of clashes with it?
Yeah, that's a good point. My guess would be that it plays the full band version of the songs that we can already play with the instruments. And that then if you play a musical instrument with it, it will just add to that and you'll play it in sync with it.
Yeah, kind of amplify it a little bit. And then alongside that, play music together with NPCs.
Yeah, so I wonder how this would work. So do you think an NPC would just come up to you if you're playing a song and just join in if they're in proximity, or how do you think that would work?
Yeah, just Balthazar rocking up with a guitar.
Yeah, oh my god.
Just shredded.
Now that's a beautiful visual in my head.
Yeah. Just maybe you could form your own Embervale band.
Yeah.
What would you call it? I want an Embervale rock band.
I would go with the Embervale Rock Band.
That's a fantastic name, Sean.
Yeah, you like it?
Yeah, you got Oswald on the drums, just smashing them.
He would be going crazy on those drums.
That's like a hammer and an anvil, he's meant for it.
Yep.
So yeah, another one that nobody asked for that, but it's really cool. And I guess especially if you don't have any friends to play with, then at least it'll feel more like you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice little thing.
Enemy patrols. So again, one from the 2024 roadmap. We've speculated about this a lot. We still don't know when it's going to be coming. I don't know if they've changed their approach to it at all.
Yeah. Again, it's a pretty straightforward one. To some extent, there will be groups of enemies roaming around the game world. Again, it feels like a sort of complicated one, because what if one of the set paths of those patrols goes through your base? That could be a little bit complicated. I'm sure they'll figure out a way around it, but again, sort of similar to how we were talking about them improving the nighttime and making that more dangerous, as well as the Shroud, just making the world more dangerous in general. And say you're making your way up through the Revelwood and you see an enemy patrol, you may have to slightly change your course. You could potentially have higher level enemies patrolling through lower level areas, so you'll have a chance of a higher level challenge in those lower level areas, which would again create a nice varied dynamic to it.
Yeah, like if you're in the Springlands and you just see a group of wyverns rocking up and you're like, what the hell?
Exactly. Yeah,
on paper seems like a really cool and obvious idea, but given the fact that everyone in every individual world are going to be placing flame altars in different places, you can't really just say, oh well, these guys are going to patrol through there, and you're going to have 5 trolls walking through this cave. It's a difficult thing.
You don't want the game to be too predictable, do you? You want these little moments where you have to change your strategy in order to overcome something that you didn't expect.
Gives people a lot more reason to share screenshots and video clips of hey guys, look, I've just found this level 40 dragon youngling in the Revelwood. What's going on? Yeah, more replay value. Sounds cool. Not sure how they're going to add it though. Yeah,
it'll be intriguing to see how that works.
Okay, here we go, Sean. Water biome.
Yeah, so the first thing to sort of mention here is in the previous roadmap, water was just placed as water. It did not say water biome. So I don't know this, but I'm going to say this just to try and manage people's expectations. If you're expecting that when water does come, we're going to have rivers and streams all over the entire map, I would just try and reel that in a little bit, because my assumption is we're going to have one large, we've discussed this before, one large lake biome or something similar that will have this big expanse of water, maybe a few islands in the middle. But beyond that, we may have a few ponds scattered in across the map, but people shouldn't be, in my opinion, expecting a full network of rivers and streams all over the map.
Yeah, it's interesting because it kind of implies that, like you say, you won't be able to, for example, dig out a pond in your base or something and fill it with water, similar to how you would in Minecraft or something like that. Because you would assume you would still be able to place flame altars in the water biome and still build, but potentially you won't be able to build underwater, or like maybe the borders around, let's say like a big lake, for example, in the water biome, maybe you can't dig into those borders, so it is just a contained body of water that you can't mess about with.
Yeah, that would be my best guess as well. I think that the border of the lake will be made of some kind of unminable material, so that you can't, dig out an area and have the water flow through, because that would be people's PCs would be blowing up, and that's not it's just not worth it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think that's it. Like, I include us in this. Like, we don't understand what goes into making a video game, but we've played enough of these kinds of games where we can look at Enshrouded and go, well, that's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. It would just be too complicated and too taxing on your CPU and stuff to sort of simulate that level of water flow, for lack of a better term. The only other thing that water biome makes me think is the ability to go underwater and potentially some kind of expansive structure or some points of interest or something interesting below the surface of the water.
Yeah, you have to assume we're going to be able to dive, right?
I would guess so. It's certainly possible that we won't be able to, but the fact that it's a biome makes me think, maybe you'll have a few islands and stuff that will be unique in their own way, but also, whether it's some kind of coral reef-like thing that you can find and go and swim between them and find underwater caves and stuff. I think there's got to be something under the water for us to explore and find.
I think it's going to be a massive kraken.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
And I think you're going to have to get a massive group together and you each dive under the water and attack an individual tentacle.
That would be so cool.
I don't actually think that's going to happen, but also I'm not opposed to the idea.
There definitely could be some kind of underwater boss. And also, if that's the case, Ben, do you think there could be some kind of, going back to the weapon gems customization, or potentially a helmet or a piece of gear that either increases or eventually gives you unlimited breath underwater?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've talked about snorkels before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Just give me a snorkel, Keen. Come on, let me customizable snorkel. Yeah.
With your own little gems in.
Exactly. Pratfall logo.
Yeah.
One more quick thing that I'm going to say about the water biome is I haven't thought about this until just now, but I feel like we've talked about spears, right? As a new weapon type. That would make sense to come with the water update.
Yes.
If we can go underwater.
Yeah, some kind of weapon that's going to be particularly useful at fighting potential underwater enemies.
Yeah, because I'm not swinging a sword underwater. I just give me a spear, I just stab away,
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to skip over one quickly because the one after that relates to what we've just been talking about. So, water biome hollow hall.
Now, again, sort of relating back to what we were literally just talking about, I think this is further evidence to suggest that we will be able to go under the water.
Surely.
I think the entrance has got to be in the water, right?
There's no way there's a water biome hollow hall and we're just splashing and getting our feet wet.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be.
And imagine the complexity of that if the whole hollow hall is submerged in the water, right? Having these air pockets that you can go and refill your oxygen at, it adds this whole new risk to going through. You've got to not only be aware of enemies and your health and your gear and what food you've got, but then also, am I going to make it to the next air pocket while dealing with these enemies, or am I going to have to come back?
Yeah. Oh man, really fun dynamic.
Yeah, the level of stress you would feel through that whole hall would be incredible.
I know, man. I know. I mean, we can talk about this all day, and we're gonna screw it. So, what level do you think the water biome might be? Do you think it would be higher level content than the mountains?
I think it's tough, isn't it? I would guess. I mean, what level is the mountains?
Well, the level cap is 35 now, so around there.
30 to 35. My guess would be about 25. So I'm going to touch back on something that I spoke about in one of our previous videos.
Yeah, I know.
About where I think the biome, the water biome, will be placed. So we have this big sort of dead space at the moment between the Black Mire and the Albanese summits. So my guess would be the Mire is level 15. The mountain biome is level 35. I think the water biome will be between those two biomes. So I'm going to say 25. And the extra difficulty within the water biome Hollow Hall will come from the dynamic created by the underwater aspect.
I think you've nailed it, mate.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah, I think you've got it. As soon as I saw the roadmap, I remembered what you said about that area in between the Revelwood and the mountains, and I'm like, yeah, I think he's sussed that.
Could you imagine if I'd worked it out that early on?
Mate, I'd be impressed.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. Maybe, so thinking about like the bosses that we get in the Hollow Halls, maybe we get a sunken Cyclops.
Oh.
And it's got like bloody barnacles and shit all over it, you know, and maybe he's got like a trident.
Yeah, maybe he's got an army of little mer people.
Mer people.
And they're ready to mess you up.
Oh, they better be. They better be. Yeah, maybe we could do a whole video on like potential water-related enemies.
Yeah, that'd be interesting actually, because again, there's sort of endless possibilities.
Yeah, let us know, guys, if you want us to put out a video where we just rant about what they could potentially put under the water in Enshrouded. Okay, now going back one, mountain biome Hollow Hall. So I feel like we have a pretty good idea of what that could look like, right?
Yes, absolutely. We obviously know where it is already in terms of where it's situated on the map. You know, we know what sort of challenges we've faced in the Albanese summits. So yeah, we have a pretty good idea of what to some level of what to expect from the mountain biome Hollow Hall. Yeah,
I mean, lots of big slippery ice slides, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we had something similar in the others, didn't we, without the ice, so it would be a missed opportunity to not do that. But yeah, man, big like icy shroud caves. I think just visually that would look awesome.
Yeah, and it would feel so different to every other Hollow Hall we've experienced so far.
What if there's a shrouded dragon?
Oh.
You know, like they could just go with the Cyclops again, but I don't want to see a Cyclops at the end of every Hollow Hall, you know, with just like a slight reskin where he got like ice shards coming out of him and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, a Shroud dragon I feel like would make sense, because they've done that with pretty much every major enemy type, right? They've made some kind of Shroud variant of it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think, I will say, I do have a sneaking suspicion that the next two Hollow Halls will come with a new and unique boss at the end. Based on the nature of them being in very specific biomes, I do think they will both come with specific bosses. How about this hot take, Ben? Let me know what you think about this, baby.
Ooh.
Ice Snake.
Ice Snake?
Yep. It obviously relates to, we've just had the Lunar New Year celebratory update, which is all about the snake. So what about an ice snake that comes out of like a tunnel in the boss arena? You know, you can sort of hit it for a bit, it goes back into the tunnel and pops out another pipe or another tunnel, and it sort of moves where it's attacking you from. Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, what if the boss arena just looks like a massive beehive or something? And like you say, it's just like darting in and out of these like passages.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, sort of similar to the Chamber of Secrets in Harry Potter. How you've got these big round... Oh my god, Ben, don't do this to me.
Continue.
You've obviously got this big hall and this big main hole that the snake comes out of, but then you've got all these sorts of round tunnels just wide enough for the snake to go in around this sort of big arena. Potentially having sections of the fight where, like I say, it comes out of these holes and you've got to attack it, then it retreats and comes out another hole, but then potentially being chased through these tunnels by it. I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be so cool. You could potentially tie in the whole Indiana Jones boulder thing.
Yes. Oh my god. Imagine if they lumped all of that together for this massive, like, big boss experience.
Yeah, if you could like stun the snake and somehow manually release these massive boulders or like create an avalanche onto it.
Yeah.
We're thinking way too big here, man.
We are. But hey,
look, we're not trying to mislead anyone. This is obviously just speculation. Don't expect a massive ice snake, but hey, that would be really cool. Okay, let's calm down just a little bit, Sean. Now we have new farm animals. Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you think of anything that's currently in the game that they haven't yet added as farm animals in terms of like non-hostile creatures?
I don't think so. I feel like the Dune armadillo was the last one on the list, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because obviously we had a load of new wild animals come with the Frozen Frontier update when the mountain arrived, but alongside that, we also had animal farming that included all of these new animals. So it's certainly a good sign. I think that says to me that they also want to diversify the amount of animals in the game. If we already can farm all the ones that are in the game, then obviously they're going to be adding more. So, and I think we've talked about in the past how we want to see more wildlife, different kinds of animals, maybe some little squirrels roaming around.
Yeah.
Just little things like that that make the wilderness feel more alive in terms of the wildlife.
Oh, imagine if they actually did scuttle up the trees.
Yeah, exactly. How good would that be?
Yeah. Remember like a few weeks back when we were recording our little backpack video and we saw like 10 squirrels just converging.
Oh my God. There were literally like 10 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there were so many squirrels, man.
It was like we'd interrupted a business meeting or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was a good start to the day, that was.
It was, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to do it again, Sean. I'm going to potentially disappoint a lot of people.
Okay.
Thinking back to the water biome, what if we get giant toads?
Oh, that would be cool.
As little pets, and you could create little lily pads on the water and have them hopping about.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And also, I suppose that also opens the door for like farming fish.
Yeah.
Potentially you could catch fish in the water biome and potentially craft some kind of fish tank in your base.
Yeah,
That'd be
nice. Of course. Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. I mean, that'd be quite easy to do, surely.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, weapon vanity system. Here we go.
Okay, so I might need your help with this one, Ben. So what this means to me is I think we've heard a lot about people using the word transmog.
Yeah.
Which, if I understand that term correctly, it's the ability to move the stats and abilities from one weapon to another weapon so that you can have the stats you want on the weapon you want. Is that right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think it... Okay. I imagine it just being a case of, like, exactly what they've done with the armor. I mean, we obviously have, like, specific cosmetic pieces for armor, which we wouldn't with weapons. That would be weird. But, yeah, being able to essentially have, like, a cosmetic slot for weapons as well, I think that would be really cool. Now, I imagine it will be limited to that weapon type. Like, for example, you won't be able to wield a sword but have it look like a massive hammer.
Yes, that would definitely make sense.
Right, another one that I'm very hyped for.
Yep.
And I'm not taking credit, okay, but coloring station for armor.
Yep, we've wanted this for a long time, haven't we?
Let's go, baby.
It all sort of goes back to your video where you showcased sort of how this could work a little while ago, the potential for dyeing different sections of your armor and stuff like that. So knowing that that's coming as a whole system is amazing. Again, we don't really know exactly how in depth it'll be, whether we'll just be able to dye these sort of fabric sections of an armor piece, or whether we will have full freedom with different regions where, you know, the front metal part of the chest piece, you can dye that a different color, and then the different fabric parts you can dye another color.
Yeah, I think it should be somewhat restricted with what you can do, because I worry, like, if you can change every individual part of the armor, like the metal parts, for example, you'd kind of run the risk of everyone might end up looking quite silly. You look at like MMOs, for example, especially ones that have these really in-depth dye systems where you can dye whatever you want, whatever color you want. Yeah, it just depends how much freedom they want people to have.
I'd be completely happy, and in fact I'd probably prefer them to just make it so that any fabric region of a piece of armor you can dye, but if you've got gold-plated armor, it remains gold. Or perhaps you could make it so that you can change it to other metal materials, so that you can change the gold to look like, iron or something like that, or steel. But it's restricted to metal types as opposed to having sort of like a bright red metal chest piece.
We'll pop a link to that dye video that we referenced, if in case you want to watch that and get an idea of how this could potentially look in the future. Okay, Barber NPC. I think this kind of answers the question that we had a while ago where we talked about the magic mirror, didn't we?
We did indeed, yes. And the potential for being able to walk up to this mirror, you can fully customize your appearance, change your hair, etc., etc. A system like that is obviously on the way. It's not being presented in the way that we necessarily pitched, but again, based on the rules and the sort of codes and conventions of how the game's worked so far, Barber definitely makes the most sense.
Yeah, I don't know how we completely glossed over the possibility of a Barber NPC.
I know.
It does make the most sense when you think about it. It's Occam's razor, isn't it? Like the most obvious solution is probably what's going to happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Magic mirror, yeah. Who knows, man? Maybe in the future we could use that for something else.
But no, I'm certainly glad that that's on the way. I think this was addressed in the recent AMA on Reddit that Keen Games did, and one of the developers responded that they were very keen to lend a voice to this ability of customization and stuff like that within the game. So my guess is whoever responded to that, they are going to be the voice of the Barber.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Imagine being that. If they do end up doing that, imagine being that person. That'd be awesome.
The real question is, Ben, why isn't it me or you?
Well, I can tell you why it's not you. It's because at some point in the future they're going to hire you to do the flame voice.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
Silly me.
You know? Yeah.
But why isn't it you?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe, the colouring station thing, maybe there's an NPC for that. That should be me because it was my idea.
Exactly.
It wasn't my idea. Don't come at me in the comments, guys. It's fine. Okay, new Vanity clothing.
Yes, so we obviously had the implementation of the Vanity system last year, which people love. You know, people love making their character look how they want them to look. But knowing that there will be more of those vanity sets and stuff on the way, fantastic. Again, I think they will just continually add more sets and stuff as they go on. And, you know, they seem to be upping their game on their cosmetic sets with each sort of release as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I think similar to the improved Shroud that we talked about, this is one that could potentially have gone under ongoing improvements because we've kind of come to expect it with each update, getting some kind of new vanity sets. Okay, new character customization options. Any idea what that could mean?
So I guess it's another case of how in depth are they going to go with it. So I would imagine alongside the Barber NPC, we'll have some new beards, some new hairstyles, maybe some new hair colors and stuff like that. I do know a lot of people have been asking for a more in-depth character customization system overall. So the ability to change the size of your character's torso, the ability to make your character fat or thin or muscular. I don't know whether they will go that far with it, but yeah, clearly they want to work out how far they can push it based on the system that they've already built. But yeah, it sort of depends how in depth they want to go with updating that system.
Armpit hair,
chest hair,
back hair.
We're very hairless, aren't we?
Indeed, we are. Yeah, it doesn't feel quite right. That's a bit of a come down from the concepts I was pitching earlier. That's all I've got for this one, armpit hair. Hey.
Hey, look, I think that would be a fantastic improvement.
Yeah, I think you've covered everything there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Changing your body type and stuff would be cool. Potentially adding some height to your character, I'd like that, obviously, but then that could potentially add, like, their own problems with getting through doors and things, I don't know.
Even if it's just like a small scale slider, so you have the average, which is what all our characters are now, and then you can make them slightly taller or slightly smaller.
Yeah, even if the top of your head kind of brushes on the door as you go through it. Named pets. So that's a cool one. That's one that I think people were hoping for when they added the animal taming feature.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I think as soon as you can have any pet in a game, Ben, people are inevitably going to want to name it what they want, aren't they?
Yeah. I wonder how it's going to work for the cats and dogs because they already have names, obviously.
Yeah, I think you can probably just change them. I think they'll have their name when you first get them, and then you can just interact with them in the same way you would any NPC and just rename them like you would a flame altar, for example. And as well, it means in future, Ben, we will have Prat Dog.
Prat Dog?
Prat Dog.
What you got against cats?
Oh, Prat Cat sounds better as well.
Prat Cat sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're just gonna have
Prat Cat and Prat Dog.
Yeah. That sounds like an old 90s cartoon.
It does, yeah. Cat Dog.
Named map markers. Now that's one that was on the 2024 roadmap. Why have they not added this one yet?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a surprising one because people have wanted it for a while. I'd imagine there'll be some kind of obscure, very specific coding reason why it's been more of a problem than they expected it to. But again, I'd imagine that will probably come in the first quarter or at least first half of this year.
Yeah, so in our last roadmap video, I think we talked about the fact that we're not particularly bothered about the map markers and how we potentially wouldn't even use them a lot. But we did get a few comments of people saying that they would find use for them and they would like them to be added. So hopefully they come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exactly.
Auto collect option sounds great. Again, sounds like quite a minor, obvious feature, but it would make life a whole lot easier.
Again, this is something that people have wanted for a while. That's one thing that I've noticed on keyboard and mouse is having to click E constantly as you're roaming around grabbing your wood or whatever else it is.
Grabbing your wood?
Grabbing your wood, absolutely.
Okay.
You got to grab it with both hands, Ben.
You might have to.
Oh dear. But yeah, just the ability to make that a bit more efficient in terms of the way you can grab things is always going to be helpful. Just speed up a bit of the resource collection, you know.
So this is something that has been a bother for me in the game, but I never actually considered them addressing it, and it's the option to prevent item collection to action bar. I don't know if you ever have issues with that.
I have indeed. So again, I think we feel similarly about this. It's sort of one of those things that I was sort of vaguely aware of in the back of my mind of it being a slight annoyance, but not enough for me to consciously be like, I want this changed. Yeah, being able to change it so that when you pick things up, it doesn't go into your action bar and is just set to automatically go into your backpack. It's fantastic because you don't want your hotbar being cluttered up with things and then have to move them away manually.
Yeah, and for me, it's often like blocks and things if I'm doing a bit of decorating, because I usually keep a decent amount of like free spots on my hotbar for things like if I'm picking up food or potions and things like that. And like you say, you don't want it getting cluttered up with things that don't need to be there, plant fiber, whatever it is. Editable signs, here we go again.
Yeah, so I actually was convinced that this was going to come on the most recent Pact of the Flame update. So the fact that it hasn't, I think, again, this will be something that they will get out in the next quality of life update. Updates obviously tend to go large scale update with some kind of big content included. Then we'll have sort of like a somewhat smaller scale quality of life update after that. So my guess is things like that will come not in the next update, but the update after that.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we got really excited, didn't we, with the teaser about the possibility of being able to actually place them now.
Yes, because at the end of the trailer, you see a character walk up to one of the books on the book stands and you see an interact prompt come up. And I caught that and I was like, I messaged you, didn't I? And I was like, mate, we can edit the books now.
Yeah, you were so confident too.
I was, yeah. But alas, we tried it and you can't currently do that. But I certainly think, or I hope, that's them winking at us and saying, this is on the way, don't worry.
Yeah, I hope so, man. That's going to open up a lot of new options for us, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. You know, naming people's houses in our community world, as well as adding your own lore to your world as well. And, you know, say you still have the first sword that you used in the game, or the sword that you beat the fell Wispwyvern with, or something like that, or an armor piece that means a lot to you. Having that on display in your base with a little sort of date marker, this is when we killed the Wispwyvern, yada yada yada. I think people will really dig stuff like that.
Yeah, just given the amount of effort and time that people invest into building their settlements up, it would definitely make sense and it would definitely add a lot. Even if it's like people just keeping track of when they made certain things, like if you made specific buildings in your settlement, be like, oh, this one was made on the 28th of January, this one was made March, whatever. Yeah, that'd be really cool. And sort of see like the progress of your builds sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that would help with, we know that King Games want to start implementing some level of sharing worlds and sharing gameplay experiences and stuff like that. Adding that kind of history into your world would also further encourage that sort of stuff.
Okay, a couple more at the bottom here. Again, these are things that were kind of mentioned last year in the roadmap. So we have teleport to other servers, which has presumably replaced portals to other servers.
Yes, exactly. Again, we don't quite know how this will work, but we assume it's just the ability to link your world with another without going to the main menu or something like that.
And community world sharing. So do we think that's just a more efficient way of like sharing your world files, essentially?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a sort of umbrella term for that sort of stuff. Sharing your experiences, sharing your world save file, potentially sharing your flame altar radius. I think it'll be, yeah, just an umbrella term to cover all of that sort of stuff.
Okay, and then finally, at the bottom, we have a little bit of text. Now this may be disappointing to a lot of people, and I think it's actually something that you kind of predicted.
Yeah.
So it says the 1.0 release is planned for spring 2026. This will include the console launch along with a creative mode.
Oh.
And more user-generated content features.
Oh. Yeah, so incredibly exciting, right? So I think you're right. I think a lot of people, especially console players, will be a bit disappointed by this. Honestly, I think it's going to be worth the wait for people. You know, the devs aren't slowing down at all on their progress within the game and making it the best game it possibly can be. You know, when we see all of these features that they're planning to implement this year, it's going to be worth the wait, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it does kind of suck for people, especially those who, you know, can't play on PC and have been following the game for a while. Like we even have, I think we have a few people in our Discord and in our comment section who have been following it and watching some of our content, for example, but can't actually play the game yet, and they've been anticipating the console launch. And, you know, I feel kind of bad because sometimes we have people asking us when we think the game is going to drop on consoles, and up until recently, we've been saying, well, you know, we think early next year, so meaning around this sort of time, because originally it seemed like that was the plan, right? That like the 1.0 launch was going to be roughly a year after they went into early access.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that you expected a little while ago, right? I think you were anticipating early 2026.
Yeah, that was I think I landed on that prediction sort of October last year or something. You know, when we were coming towards the end of them completing the 2024 roadmap, with a few things left for them still to implement. But I will say, as disappointed as I'm sure a few people are, like I say, especially console players, at the very least, now you have a time frame, right?
Yeah.
People know when they should expect the game being accessible to them, which I think that's enough. People knowing when they're going to get it, I think people will just accept it and go, okay, I may have to wait a little bit longer, but at least I know when it's coming.
Yeah, and I think for the people that do have their hands on the game now, I think there's two schools of thought, because I think on one side, there's people like us who are just really enjoying the journey, and we like being along for the ride and seeing all these new updates and seeing things implemented and things like that. But then you also have a lot of people who are maybe a little bit more impatient than we are in that regard, where they're like, oh, why don't we have this yet? Or why can't we do this? And I understand that frustration, maybe for a more casual player. But the good thing is for console players, by the time you get your hands on it, it's going to be this massive, fully fleshed out game. And
with all the features you could possibly want.
Yeah, you're going to be able to sink hundreds of hours into it, presumably without getting bored or tired of it, you know?
And especially when you consider then what it says at the end there, with a creative mode, which is something people have wanted for a long time. Mm-hmm. Again, I think a big part of the longevity of this game that's going to make it last years and years and years is the ability to just sink time into the building over long periods of time. Sort of similar to the reason Minecraft's had such a long life. And then more user-generated content features. I think that will include some kind of free camera mode, the ability to potentially record time lapses of builds within the game and things like that, as well as the potential for releasing sort of community created maps like our mini games that we do and stuff like that. So like you say, Ben, by the time 1.0 release comes, the amount of content that is going to be in this game is going to be absolutely absurd.
Yeah, baby.
It's going to be well worth the wait for people, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, so that is the 2025 Enshrouded roadmap. Now, Sean, just before we wrap up, I've got one more thing to ask you.
Okay.
Where the hell are the Sky Islands?
It's very intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very intriguing that they're not making an appearance here.
They're keeping it so under wraps.
Yeah, which could suggest potentially that is some kind of end game biome.
Yeah.
That could be where the story ends. Or it could be something that they're just holding close to their chest to release on a whim when when it's ready, and B, when they want to. We obviously learned over the last year that while they're very clear with their roadmaps about features that they are going to implement, they also like to drop things on us that we had no idea were coming. So it's tough to say. I think my best two theories are either it's the Sky Islands are going to be like the end of the game. I'm sure Keen Games have had loads of ideas based on listening to the community speculation. Maybe they see someone's comment or they see a video like ours or something like that, and they go, "Oh, do you know what? That's a really fun idea. Let's see if we can make that work." So being somewhat vague on certain things will naturally cause more ideas and more fun things to come to fruition.
Exciting times ahead, man.
It really is. It's been a fantastic 2024, getting into this game and living with it for an entire year. And, I'm sure you're the same. I'm just excited for a whole nother year of new content to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm just proud to be an Enshrouded YouTuber.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? We've had a fantastic journey over the last year, building up a community of people that love the game and talking to our community in our Discord, for example, about what they think, and doing our community streams. It's been one of, if not the most fun year of my entire life, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing to look back in like 10 years time, just at Enshrouded, because assuming we're not playing it at that point, we might still be playing it, who knows. But being able to look back and be like, man, that was such a cool time in our lives, and it was such an amazing game, and it's just affected us in a way that no other game ever has. Yeah,
hit the nail on the head. It really is a special game, and it has been from the moment we started playing it. And over the last year, they've only improved it and listened to the community and taken their comments on board and tried to implement as much stuff that the community wants as possible. So it's just been an incredible journey, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, guys. So if you've made it this far into the video, thank you, first of all, because these are not short videos, are they?
They're not, no.
If you're watching us for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. We do cover all things Enshrouded. We have all kinds of content, from news videos, roadmap stuff like this, builds. We have community streams every Monday, which you are more than welcome to join. And consider joining our Discord too, because we have a bunch of people in there who also love the game and similar games, Valheim, other survival games like that. And until next time, I have been Ben.
And I have been Sean.
And you have been watching
Pratfall.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.